Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Executive on the 5th of September 2023. My name is Councillor Paul Follows. I'm the leader of the Council and chair of this executive meeting. Item 1, apologies from Ben.
Thank you, Leader. You have apologies for absence from Councillor Merriweather this evening.
Thank you very much indeed. Members of the Exec, can I have your approval for the signing of the minutes on the 1st of August published on the website? Thank you. Declarations, any declarations of interest from anybody? Nope, good. Questions from members of the public, Ben, any?
There are none.
We had one question from Councillor Weldon under part 5, which has been withdrawn as Councillor Weldon has had a meeting with the portfolio holder prior to this session, and that's been addressed. Thank you very much, Councillor Fairclough and Councillor Weldon, for addressing that outside of the meeting. Item 6, lead and portfolio holders updates. I will probably reserve my comments till the end, and I'll go around the list and I'll invite everybody to chime in if they've got something to discuss. Don't feel obliged, of course, as always. Starting with Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Leader. I'll be brief. I think I took the hint there. But just a few words about the Farm Infrastructure Programme. As we enter the funding cycle of the programme for the improvements to Farnham's Town Centre and the detailed design stage, the executive were pleased to have a comprehensive briefing from the Farnham Infrastructure team from Surrey yesterday. So we're all extremely well educated and knowledgeable about the programme now, and we look forward to its continuing travels. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Councillor Keele.
Thank you. Nothing this time.
Thank you, Victoria. Councillor Mary's Way. Councillor Merides.
Thank you, Leader. Nothing to report really. The museum's on track, and the only thing that I would say is about the Edge, where we are organising a meeting and have been asked the people who should be coming to it some time ago whether they can arrange to do that. But Leader, you're going to speak about that later, but it's still ongoing. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kika. Councillor Palmer.
I'll reserve my voice for item 9.
Thank you, Nick. Councillor Rivers.
Thank you, Leader. I've asked the housing team to prepare a letter to our senior living accommodation tenants, residents, about the RAAC position, so that they receive the appropriate degree of comfort. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to confirm that we have received confirmation that the hearing of the legal challenge to the adoption of Local Plan Part 2 will take place in person at the Royal Courts of Justice on the 7th and 8th of November this year, with a time estimate of about 2 days. And obviously I will be attending along with officers as well. I am delighted also to see that our business improvement districts, which we have long supported, are now progressing for Godalming and Farnham, and I very much look forward to seeing the ballot for Godalming going out soon. Just as another matter, we've been supporting local businesses through IncuHive, a programme we've been funding, and I just wanted to advise the exec that over the last 6 months, so from January to June, we have supported 78 businesses through that package, and we have contributed towards creating about 22 new jobs across the borough. So that's great news. Thank you. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Liz. And finally, no, my apologies, Councillor Fairclough, I've missed you off.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you, Tony. And Councillor Williams to finish.
Okay, thank you, Leader. Preparation of the annual update of the Carbon Neutrality Action Plan is now complete, and the 2023 draft is going through discussions with the executive at the moment, and will go to overview and scrutiny. on the 19th of February. The headline figure is that there's been a reduction of 39% in our carbon emissions from the baseline year, which is a good achievement, but it means that around 2/3 of our historic carbon emissions need to be reduced to net zero over the remaining 7 years. And that is a formidable challenge, and it gets more difficult as time goes on. So I think that's a challenge that faces us, but it's a challenge we must take on if we're serious about tackling climate change. Then the administration is determined, as part of the push to net zero, to act on promoting sustainable transport. And I am delighted that Waverley has been successful in its efforts to be one of the first boroughs where the on-demand electric bus scheme that was piloted in Mole Valley is being rolled out. The scheme has gone live in Farnham and Cranley yesterday, and as we were told yesterday, the scheme will roll out to Godalming in the next 12 months. So that should be helpful in terms of our kind of work on sustainable transport. A couple of brief things on the green spaces. Design briefs are being prepared for a tendering process for 3 playgrounds following a consultation exercise, and SIL bids are being prepared for the refurbishment of 3 others. And finally, the refurbishment of the internal areas of the Broadwater Park changing rooms has started, and the process will take about 3 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just some final comments from me, as Councillor Mirrlees alluded to, the Edge. I'm at the present seeking a meeting between Surrey County Council, Waverley Borough Council and the Wade and Matt, a meeting effectively to stop looking back at the past and to ensure that we move forward as one unit in terms of the future use of the Edge. That call has been renewed again today. I met with Sport Haslemere and with the Herald last week to discuss what we were intending to do about the Edge. Obviously, this is a building that Surrey County Council own. We obviously want to make sure still is run for the use of leisure in Haslemere to at least some degree. So that meeting is something that we've asked to happen. I've requested it be chaired by the Mayor of Haslemere as an independent party, and that Sport Haslemere attend as an observer with Councillor Mirrlees, and I believe it would be Natalie Bramall of Surrey County Council would be the relevant portfolio holder over there as well. I have requested that if that meeting takes place, that one single communique come out of it from the 3 parties that state what we're doing next, so that everybody is clear and so that residents in Haslemere, and particularly the sports clubs, have some certainty of what's going on, ideally before the end of September. We don't really want to keep anybody waiting any longer than that. I know some of those clubs aren't going to be sustainable in their current locations and will have to look further afield if they haven't got certainty on that by the end of the year. So we're looking to give them that. Just also to add, thank you to everybody and also other councillors for the passing of the 69 High Street matters last week. I think it's great to see that finally in place. And obviously it won't be too much longer, I hope, before we can formally communicate who that tenant is. And I think it'll be a very welcome addition to Godalming High Street. And despite many reports saying that there was a wider Broadwater matter on the agenda tonight, there is not, either outside of exempt or in exempt, but I can give assurances that there will be fairly soon. And we'll be hosting a briefing for Waverley Borough councillors and also Godalming Town councillors to discuss what is going on with Broadwater and the next steps. So on that note, I will now move over to item 7, which is recommendations from the Review and Scrutiny Committee. There are no recommendations from the Review and Scrutiny Committee, as there have not been any during this period. So they will be meeting later this month. Moving then on to item 8, temporary shared staffing arrangements, which Councillor Keele will introduce, followed by Councillor Hyman, who's registered to speak. Victoria.
Thank you, Leader. I welcome the opportunity to briefly introduce the paper and then to take any questions. Thank you to all the officers who have worked on this. This report seeks the approval of the principle of shared staffing on a temporary basis between Waverley Borough Council and Guildford Borough Council to support the collaboration so that opportunities to do so between the two authorities are not missed. These temporary arrangements do not bind either council to anything permanent or affect any future decisions about the collaboration programme. By agreeing this report, the executive will be authorising the governance to be set up, which needs to be in place to allow both authorities to have interim shared staffing arrangements. Just to say this is made very clear in paragraph 5.1 of the report, stating the purpose is to secure agreement from the executive to optimise opportunities that arise to share staff between the two councils on an interim basis where it is clearly in the best interests of both councils to do so. We are being asked in this report to also delegate decisions on temporary shared staffing to the Joint Chief Executive. As the head of paid service, this is an appropriate delegation and one that should be in place in order to make routine decisions about staff resources in an efficient manner. A robust inter-authority agreement is proposed to ensure good governance and that the required legal agreements are in place. It's worth us being aware that Guildford Borough Council have agreed a similar decision at a meeting of their executive in July. This report mirrors that one and the recommendations have the same effect. I think it's very important that informal working between the two executives continues to strengthen our working relationships, especially as some new members, myself included, will be new to the role. I have made contact with my opposite number at Guildford and we will hopefully be meeting in due course, and informal meetings between the two executives are being scheduled. Opportunities to meet and work together will only help our collaboration programme and will set the parameters for success. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Sectionally clear. Councillor Hyman, you've registered to speak.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Chairman. Good evening. It seems to me that there's a little bit of a question out there in the on the airwaves as to whether this is a crisis or not, and whether we're helping our partners, or whatever we call them in Guildford, to get out of this crisis. I want to make sure this doesn't turn into a crisis of confidence, because we haven't got a great deal of information in front of us this evening about this. So there's a lot of questions which aren't answered in the papers. I'm sorry, I could have asked in advance, but I simply haven't had time. This is brought before us without scrutiny or prior knowledge of it. I've been warned already that I shouldn't believe social media tittle tattle. So I just want to check, because I've got some questions. If you'd answer the first one is, has Guildford Borough Council imposed a recruitment freeze? Because that's what's being said. And then the obvious question follow to that is, are we helping them out? And if so, at what cost to ourselves? Because obviously, you know, we've got in front of us here on page 21, paragraph 6.1, and I quote, it says, a vision for the partnership between GBC and WBC was supported by both executives and is due to be considered for formal agreement. And this seems to be that we're doing this before we've actually even looked at the vision and how this is going to take us to the vision. I don't see a plan in front of me, basically. There isn't a plan here as to how we are helping Guildford out, or how this is going to help us out, how it benefits us, and to what extent it benefits us. And if we haven't got a plan to succeed, then we've just got a plan to fail. So without the plan, I'm really would like some explanation, please, that would satisfy residents that we're doing the right thing, rather than just doing something urgently, because I don't know why it's in front of us so quickly before we've got the vision and everything else sorted out. Residents might think we're accepting staff who caused the problem at Guildford or whatever, and Ash Manor, if people know the judgment where Guildford's officers were criticised very heavily by the judge. You know, will we still be getting the best support and advice that we have currently available to us, or will that be going where it's needed most without a commitment, certain commitments? Then I really do think that we need more information before making this decision. So what is the hurry for temporary arrangements, please, if you could explain that without a plan? What is Guildford's pressing recruitment need, if that's what it is, or our own, and by when? Because is there time for us to scrutinise this and bring it back? Or is there an urgent need that means we can't spend a few weeks sorting this out and getting it right and finding out you know, how it ties in with the bigger picture. If it's a plan to help Guildford Borough Council out of a corner, circumvent or defy their own constraints that they seem to have put upon themselves of not taking people on, I don't even know whether that's entirely ethical if they're telling people they're not doing things, but we're helping them out, and we need residents to satisfy them. That's not the case. But the information isn't here in front of us. We need information. We need answers. Is the agreement going to be robust? We would certainly need a duty of candour within there, so that we've got the confidence that the planning, that all the officers and all the members are telling everybody the truth about this. We all have to be able to trust each other, and without a duty of candour, we can't do that. So I'm asking of you, please, will you give us a commitment this evening, Leader, and other members of the executive, if they wish to, give us a commitment to immediate affirmation that's a duty of candour, requiring that councillors and staff of both councils are accountable, providing all the relevant information and straight answers necessary to us, straight questions, answers to straight questions in good time, on request, and perhaps keep a register of those questions and answers. So if you would give me that commitment, then I think that was a step to ameliorating the difficulties we could have with this if we don't have that duty in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hyman. Duty of candour is always something that piques my interest, because one of the similarities between a dishonest man and an honest man is that they'll both tell you that they're honest men. So I'm really not sure really how codifying something in the rules really forces somebody to be honest if they're intent on being dishonest. I tend to take the approach that I consider everybody to be open and reasonable and honest until somebody gives me evidence that they're not, which is also the way that the courts work as far as I understand them. I'm just going to cover a couple of these sections, and I imagine that Victoria will cover some of the others.
Sorry, could I explain that or not?
There isn't a mechanism to come back. I'm going to just answer your questions. I've dealt with duty of candour about 6 times over the course of sitting in the seat. I'm not going to go any further than what I've just said. This is a constitutional mechanic, effectively, to enable staff sharing between Guildford Borough Council and Waverley Borough Council. They have already, Guildford Borough Council, passed the equivalent thing, the equivalent constitutional instrument, as Councillor Keel illustrated, back in, I think it was July. Now, there have been a number of instances already where we have been using staff from Guildford for gaps that we have. One key one, for example, being private sector housing. So I think the point I need to just stress is that this is absolutely not a one-way street. And in fact, because they passed theirs in July, we've been using their resources here. So realistically, this is a constitutional measure to allow the efficient usage of the resources that both councils have. There are gaps in each council, some of which have a person in the other council that can fill that gap temporarily. Just going back a couple of steps as well, Guildford Borough Council have had a hiring freeze, although they are allowing hiring by exception. Broadly speaking, that isn't really a problem for us. That's a question on their side. In terms of an initial vision, the initial vision for the collaboration and these sorts of elements about sharing resources, both material and in terms of people, was set out in July 2021. So we're a long way away from when we first did that. And of course, this is really just the first step of this. The larger, more, I would say, serious elements that might come down the line in terms of things such as where people are working and who they are working for are matters that are subject to more thorough scrutiny and are the subject of a report that will be coming much later in this calendar year, again, to both councils. So from my point of view, this is merely constitutional tidying. It is a formal part of the Local Government Act, Section 113, that allows the efficient sharing of resources between local authorities. And realistically, that is all this is. And therefore, I'm very comfortable with it, especially as Guildford have been doing it for over a month. Victoria, was there anything you wanted to respond to on Jerry's questions?
Thank you, Leader. Thank you to Councillor Hyman for his comments. I won't add much. As the Leader has explained, this is a technical paper to enable us to share staff on an interim basis. And as the report states, it will be when it is in the best interest of both councils to do so. I just wanted to highlight that point. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, it is only when it is in the interest of both councils, and that decision is made by the Joint Chief Executive. Liz, sorry, Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Leader. And I'd just like to say I very much welcome this report from Councillor Keel. I think it would be completely wrong of us not to ultimately look at how we can improve services to our residents by working in partnership with Guildford. And as we've been working together over the past few months, you know, we have identified opportunities where we can take advantage of the knowledge, expertise of staff across both councils to improve services, and also to become more agile and to take advantage of opportunities as they arise. So I think it makes complete sense for us to do this, and I very much look forward to working with officers across both councils in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers before I move to the recommendations? Which bear with me because I'm having a minor technical fail. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm intending to take the recommendations as a block. Any objections? No? Okay, can I have all those in favour of recommendations 1 through 3? Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Moving then on to item 9, new build housing delivery, Aarons Hill, Godalming. Councillor Palmer to introduce. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Leader. This is a project that's been going for some time and is now moving to the next stage. It's already been approved both by executive and by full council. The impact of inflation means that we do need to come back and look at it again. The background to this is partly in exempt, so colleagues will have studied that. But the bottom line is that these 4 homes are very much in keeping with the council's priorities. 2 of them directly dealing with cases of homelessness, and all 4 are in line with our strategy. And the overall impact of the proposal remains financially viable, indeed very satisfactory. So I do recommend it to my colleagues, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Councillor Hyman, you've registered to speak.
Yes, this was just a matter of this. Aarons Hill, I've been queried by new councillors, have been asked about the situation, and to my knowledge, the whole of the development was valued. I think we had spent some £23 million on the whole of the development up at Aarons Hill. So not well, yeah, at Aarons Hill, but which this is, I know perhaps not a part of, but I wanted to know all the development that we're doing there. What at the moment does it owe us effectively, and how many homes are we going to gain for that? I thought it was 23 million, but can we have an update on that, please? And if that update can't be given now, I might be able to understand that, although I'd be a bit surprised. Could I have it in writing after the meeting another day? Thanks.
Councillor Hyman, I think you're referring to the redevelopment at Oxford Ridge itself. You're fortunate in this particular occasion not just to have Louisa in the room, but also both the ward councillors for Central and Oxford. So I can attest, having walked around most of the building that's ever taken place on Oxford Ridge, that it is definitely at Oxford Ridge as opposed to Aarons Hill, which is effectively right round the bend in this case, over beyond the school and down towards the other side. If she has it off the top of her head, I will ask Louisa if you know what the net gain on homes was on Oxford Ridge, because off the top of my head I can't remember.
I must admit I cannot remember off the top of my head to do it accurately. I'd rather come back to. Thank you.
I think in broad terms, though, bearing in mind the size of the gardens that most of the existing properties had and the consolidation of some of those sites, I believe in most cases it was actually a net gain of housing on Oxford Ridge. I think all of them might have been.
Yeah, they're all a net gain. We wouldn't do them otherwise. No, thank you.
In the case of this, though, this site relates to Aarons Hill, which is a little bit round the corner, and this is effectively a lot where we've had garages and is now an open space. It is adjacent to the private development referred to as Oxford Park, and effectively connects to the back of the back access leading to New Way. So it is a very separate development and very specific circumstances and constraints on the site as far as myself as one of the ward councillors is concerned. Councillor Keel, I think you had your hand up.
Thank you, Leader. Just briefly, I would like to say, as one of the 2 ward members here, that this progress in Aaron's Hill, both for the rough sleeper accommodation and for the Waverley Rent homes, is very welcome, along with the commitment for them to be sustainably built net zero. So I think this is fantastic and I very much welcome it.
Yes, this very much hits at least 3 boxes on the corporate strategy: sustainable, local, affordable housing. Liz.
Just to say as well that I very much support this. You know, it meets with our corporate strategy to, you know, build more, build better and build for life affordable housing. And I'm not at all surprised that the cost has increased slightly. As the Chancellor himself said on Sunday, I said that we may see a blip in inflation in September. Unfortunately, we are seeing costs rising across many projects. Thank you.
Blip being a technical term from the Chancellor, I'm sure. Councillor Palmer, sorry, Councillor Rivers was first and then Councillor Palmer, sorry.
Okay, just very briefly then, Leader, I'd just like to congratulate our housing team for being so successful in obtaining the grant funding, at least in part anyway, for the 2 homeless 1-bedroom flats. Terrific. We are well served by you. Thank you.
Very much second that. Thank you, Councillor Rivers. Councillor Palmer.
Yes, I'll serve that. I did want to stress that if we didn't proceed with this, we would then lose the grant from Homes England, and it would be eccentric that we were not attempting to provide homeless accommodation. So I don't think the proposal is actually controversial. I haven't encountered anyone who opposes it.
Or have I? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, just again to echo the support for the proposal and commend the work of our wonderful housing team. Again, endorsing the notion that the homes are sustainable homes, 100% sustainable homes, and I've been delighted really to see that gradual improvement in that quality of the homes that we are building in Waverley. It's you know, it's not just good for the planet, it's good for the tenants, and that's so important that we are serving our tenants and providing quality housing and not compromising on that.
I'll just add the only bit that hasn't been said. I'd also just thank you, Louisa, for engaging with also not just the ward members but the town council, the other residences around. I mean, when I got there last time, I think I was with Councillor Rivers on the site, and the lady who lived on the corner came out and had spoken to you. She'd clearly met you at least once before and had conversations about this. It just makes the whole thing a lot easier and makes the buy-in in the rest of the community that much easier for everybody. So thank you for doing all the hard work on this, most of which are not things that you're required to do. They're just good that you do. So thank you. Right, so at that point, I will move it to the recommendations, which are in 6 parts, which I'm again proposing to take together and not to read out in full. So can I have all those in favour of recommendations 1 through 6? Thank you very much, everyone. And then item 10, I'm afraid I will now need to move us to exempt session. So that pursuant to